establishment. This guy, in his whole life, didn't know what the word establishment meant. Now you have all these people going because they say, oh, man, Trump is terrible. He doesn't want any of our money. I had one friend that came into my office. I don't think I've ever said this before. He came into my office. He wanted to give me millions of dollars. I said, I can't take your money. I don't want the money. I'm self-funding. No, you got to be kidding. He didn't even know. He thought I was kidding. He wanted to endorse me, wanted to support me. I said, no, I don't want. Anyway, he was finally convinced I didn't want his money. And he's leaving. I said, by the way, what are you going to do now? He said, I'm going to give it to another candidate. I said, why? They're gamblers. They have to do it. It's like almost a disease. They have to do it. It's the craziest thing. He loves me. He wants to give me probably close to $10 million, right? I would have had the greatest super PAC in history if I would have taken all the money. And my whole life, you know, I've said this before, my whole life as a business person is this, right? It's okay, nothing wrong with it. I keep taking. I take and take. But now I'm going to take for the United States. We're going to take. We're not going to be the stupid people anymore. We're not going to be the stupid people anymore. We can't be. We can't be. And with NATO, when they don't pay, you know, I was asked a question by Wolf Blitzer, a very fair question about NATO. Now, you know, I've been a businessman, world class. I filed my papers. They were phenomenal. Everybody says, great, great, great. I built a great company, very little debt, tremendous cash flow, some of the greatest assets in the world. And I tell you that only for one reason. That's the thinking we need in Washington now. We need some of that thinking. And Wolf Blitzer asked me a question on television. He said, let me just ask you about NATO. And he asked me about NATO. Now, I haven't been asked about NATO a lot, but I understand NATO and I understand common sense. And I'm like a smart person, like many of the people in this room, hopefully all of the people in this room. But he asked me about NATO. I said, it's obsolete. This is my first thing. And you know what? I'm the first one. Guys that study NATO, and good people, but they study NATO. And they say, I don't believe it. What he just said, I never thought of that. They study it. Because they're so into it that they don't realize. Because it was really put there. You had the Soviet Union, and now you have Russia, which is different, but Russia is very powerful, so we can sort of say that's a balance, so we'll leave it. But it doesn't really cover terrorism like it's supposed to. It doesn't have the right countries. I mean, many of the countries in there aren't, you know, that you associate with terrorism. And so I said, number one, it's obsolete. I said, number two, to the best of my knowledge, the United States pays far too much proportionately, and why are we always paying the bills to protect other people? And the press, which is so totally dishonest, the press goes, headlines the next day, Trump doesn't want NATO, wants to disband NATO. And that's not what I said. I said, you got to pay your bills. And you know what? If they can't pay their bills, honestly, there should be, they got to go. Because we can't do this. You know, this isn't 68 years ago. This isn't, you know, when it was originally formed, like many, many years ago, many decades ago. And you have to redo things. But it is interesting. Some of the smartest people have said, what Trump said is genius. It's obsolete. And you know what? It's true. There's a lot of people, a lot of countries being given a free ride. We can't have the free rides anymore, folks. Thank you. Well, we need somebody with that. We need to, and it's America first, folks. It's America first. So then, as you know, North Korea is a big problem. North Korea is a problem. A problem could be solved easily by China, but they don't want to solve it because they want to tweak us. They're building in the South China Sea a massive military fort. You know what's going on. They shouldn't be doing that. And they're taking our money. And, you know, you talk about the imbalance of trade. You talk about the kind of money. How about this? We owe China $1.7 trillion. Now, they take our money. They take our jobs, and I love them. They're fine. They're great. I'm not angry at China. I'm angry at our people, at our leaders for letting it happen. I'm not angry at China. If you can get away with it, you do it. But they take our jobs. They take our money. They take our money. They take everything. We owe them $1.7 trillion. That's like sort of a magic act, isn't it? Amazing. Japan, they send cars by the millions. They come off those boats. Los Angeles, I was there at the docks. I looked at the biggest boats you've ever seen, biggest, greatest ships you've ever seen. The cars are pouring off the ships. We owe them $1.5 trillion. It's like, well, how does this all happen, okay? How does it happen? Here's the story, folks. We're going to change our thinking. We're going to be the smart people again. We're going to be so smart. We're going to be so sharp. So a lot of people don't know We protect Japan. Do you know that? Does anybody know? You might know from lists, because, you know, we protect Japan, we protect Germany, we protect South Korea. When you want a television set, who do you get it from? South Korea. Samsung, LG, you get it from South Korea. So we protect all the, and big ships they make. These are monster economies. We protect them. They don't pay what they should be paying for not having to have this massive military apparatus that we supply. And you know what? We get that because we have people that don't know what they're doing in Washington for many years. I mean, I'm not even blaming, Obama's the worst, he's the worst. The worst. I mean, when he just realizes, he just realized that the Iran deal is a bad deal. It just took him realize. I said, oh, why didn't you listen to me 2 years ago? Just 2 years ago, if he would have let. Can you imagine, did you ever see a deal take so long? By the way, usually when a deal takes that long, it's bad automatically. I can usually tell you that. But anyway, so we protect Japan. So it comes out, they say, what do you think of Japan? I said, look, I would have to tell Japan, and I'm talking about other nations also, because I have great friends from Japan. I have great friends from South Korea. We have to go see them, talk to them, have a meeting with them. We love protecting you. We don't want them to arm necessarily. But, you know, at some point, how long are we going to do this? So we have to see them, and we have to say, you got to help us out. You know, we have this massive amount of money that we have to get rid of, because we are sitting on one of the worst bubbles you'll ever see, okay? Believe me, we got to straighten it out. We got to straighten out our trade deals. We got to straighten out our military deals. We're taking care of all these countries. So we go to Japan. And here's what the news say. I said to the people, I was telling the people, and they said, wow, that sounds good. You got to take care of us. Now, they'll probably say initially no, and we leave, and then they're going to say yes. But if they don't say yes, you always have to be prepared to make a great deal to walk. You have to be. You can't say, oh, the problem with the Iran deal was that Secretary Kerry was like an amateur. I call him amateur night. He refused to walk. They were laughing at him in the streets of Iran. They were claiming the deal is the greatest deal ever made before it was even made. They're saying this deal is unbelievable. They were laughing at the Secretary of State of this country. They were laughing at the United States, saying that this deal is so great. And they're dancing. Remember burning the flag, dancing? When they start dancing about a deal that I'm making, when they start burning the American flag, I'm out of there. Bye-bye. Good luck. And he just kept going back. And I kept waiting. I wanted to call him. I wanted to say, walk. Because every single thing, he'd say, we would like to get this. No. Oh, okay. You've got it. We would like to get that. No. You know, the Persians are great negotiators. It's an unbelievable deal. But just yesterday, Obama, he brought it up that he's very unhappy. And, I mean, think of it. $150 billion. It's the worst deal. We didn't get our prisoners back. We should have had the prisoners back before we started negotiating. Increase the sanctions. Don't sit at the table. Say, you give our prisoners back or we're not starting. You leave. They'll say no. You leave. And what happens? You double up the sanctions. Within 24 hours, they call you and they say, you've got your prisoners. That could have been years ago, right? So we have people that don't know what they're doing. Here's the story. You need Trump. You do. You need Trump. You got to have Trump. You do. I mean, you got to have Trump. You know, it's sort of interesting because I see when I turn on the television, I see these ads about myself by crooked people. I see these ads, and they're mostly wrong. Some a little bit sometimes are right, but they're all negative, you know. And I'm watching last night television, ad after ad. In Florida, they spent $38 million on negative ads, and I won in a landslide. I wonder, does anybody read? Does anybody watch television? You know, it's not much for the advertising community when you think they spent $38 million, a record number, in Florida. They spent thousands and thousands of ads nationwide. Listen to this one. 55,000 negative ads on me. Most of it was made up. I'll give you one good example. We have the Club for Growth, which is, forget them. These are among the dumbest people that you'll ever meet. They come to my office. They want me to give them $1 million. Friend asked me, please see them. I said, who are they? The Club for Growth, whatever that means. So they come to my office. They ask me for $1 million. I say, no, thank you. And that's it. They then leave. They write me a letter, which I posted, asking me for $1 million. I said very nicely, I'm not a bad person. I said nicely, no, thank you. You know, you can be rich, but you don't have to be stupid, okay? Why am I going to give them $1 million? So what happens is all of a sudden they see their name all over the place. Club for Growth, and they talk about, different things, ridiculous things. I mean, it's the worst ads. And by the way, one is a fraudulent ad because they say if Cruz and Kasich got together and you added their delegates, and they show the delegates, right? And you add them up, and I'm over here with Lot, and they said, and they add them up, and they show a graph that goes much higher than mine, and it's much lower than mine. They're a fraud. And what we did is we told them to stop that ad. And that was a week ago. And we tweeted about it. And everybody's talking about it. And I see it last night again. They're crooked. So here's what they do. It's like a form of extortion, I guess, right? When you think of it. They come to your office, they ask for $1 million. You don't give them the $1 million. They go out, they do negative ads. These are the people. If these people about Trump, they call it like no Trump. What do they call that thing? They call it never Trump. Oh, you need Trump so badly, though. I was saying, if they would have worked so hard, so diligently against President Barack Hussein Obama, okay, they would have beaten him. They would have had great budgets. They would have had everything they wanted. But with him, they fold. I always say, Obama is the worst negotiator I've ever seen. You look at except with the Republicans. He gets everything he wants. I mean, you look at the omnibus budget from 3 months ago, he got everything he wanted. Fund Obamacare, bring people into the country that shouldn't be here. He got everything he wanted. So he is the worst negotiator worldwide. We have Sergeant Bergdahl, right? We get Bergdahl, a traitor. No, think of it. This is the same. This is a negotiation. We get Bergdahl, and they get, what do they get? 5 of their most coveted killers that have been in jail for 8 years in Gitmo, which we're not closing down, by the way, okay? We're going to run it a lot better. So we get Bergdahl, a traitor, who 5 or 6, probably 6, people were killed going out to try and get him back. He left. He's a traitor. So we get Bergdahl, and that's what we get. And they get 5 people that are right now back on the battlefield or soon to be back on the battlefield trying to kill everybody in sight, including us, okay? We've got to stop it. We've got to stop it. So with Japan, I said, maybe we got to walk. And the next day headlines, Trump doesn't want to defend Japan. Trump wants Japan to get their nukes. Oh, okay, so here's the story, folks. You have Japan. Japan is very concerned with North Korea. Number one, I like the way it is now, but I want them to pay a lot more money, and they probably will. But if they don't, it's not so bad if they are at heads. Maybe we're not supposed to get into that fight. That's a bad fight. Maybe we're not supposed to, okay? Okay? Same thing with South Korea. I mean, every time he raises his head and he starts talking, every single time he raises his head, our ships start floating over, our planes start going over, we do all sorts of exercise. What do we get out of this? We have 28,000 soldiers on the line. So we have to be taken care of. Now, I'm talking as a person financially, okay? I'm also talking militarily, but I'm talking financially. We don't have a country that could do this anymore. Saudi Arabia, until the oil went down, and now they're still making a fortune, but Saudi Arabia was making $1 billion a day. We protect Saudi Arabia. If we weren't there, Saudi Arabia wouldn't be there. If Saudi Arabia didn't have us for years protecting them, they would have been gone long ago. As Saudi Arabia, somebody else would have it. Probably, maybe Iraq, because he would have come back. And by the way, speaking of that, I was against going into Iraq. Everyone says, oh, Trump is going to be very tough. I was against going into Iraq from the very beginning. From the very beginning. And I'm going to build our military bigger, stronger than ever before. But you know what? Hopefully, we'd never have to use it. Nobody's going to tell us what to do, though. We have to shape it up because our military is totally depleted. But if our politicians would have gone to the beach for the last number of years, many years, we would be much stronger in a sense. We'd be much stronger because the Middle East is a disaster. You see the Great Migration. It's a catastrophe. You see what's going on in Germany. It's a total mess, what she has done. Can you imagine? She was Person of the Year. I was supposed to be Person of the Year on Time Magazine. She beat me out and she destroyed Germany. Can you believe this? That's not good. I wonder if Time Magazine had that one to do over again, what they'd say. I think we'd be in much better shape. Well, they've treated me nice. I've been on the cover a lot. And the reason we're on the cover a lot is because we have a movement the likes of which people have never seen. So here's the story. Here's the story. You know, one of the great writers called me up and he said,